On today's show, Tesla creates a new model for China. I do a quick roundup of exciting tech from CES, and batteries, they're charging the world. G'day and welcome, my name's Chris and this is your show about everything happening in Australia and well, from around the world in the space of renewable technologies like EVs, solar, batteries, wind and a lot more. If you're new, welcome, consider subscribing, and big shout out to my awesome patrons for supporting me, and particularly my producer level guys, so that's Angelo, Ashley Hill, Ray Johnson and Tessa and the Gong. You can join me over there for as little as $2 a month. That's like a coffee. And yeah, you get a lot of behind the scenes content, early access and well, a lot more. And this show is actually being sponsored by Tesla Taxi. So if you've got a Tesla or you want to actually try one out, look these guys up. You can save by using my referral code, which is just down below here. Or if you mention Chris V in your comments for Victorian bookings, you can save yourself up to 10% for bookings of 4 days or more. Check them out, a lot of fun. First up, Elon Musk has celebrated Tesla's first public delivery of the Tesla Model 3 at the Chinese Gigafactory, where he said that it would be super cool to create a Chinese designed and engineered original Tesla car for worldwide consumption. He then went on to say, I think this will be very exciting. I think China has some of the best art in the world and I think it's something that will be appreciated on a worldwide basis. I think it should be done and we're going to do it. Now, this is actually pretty amazing in that to date, Tesla has designed and engineered their cars in America. And well, taking this over to Shanghai and giving it some Chinese artists and engineers will be very interesting, especially if it's going to be something that's going to be marketed worldwide. Be curious to see how it all unfolds and where in the timeline this is going to be fitting in, but nonetheless, bring it on, I say. Okay, the next part of the show is going to be like a series of very short little segments, which fits very neatly into bites. This last week, CES 2020 was held in Las Vegas and added a lot of really cool and interesting tech. And I'm going to bring you just some of the highlights here. And well, please, I've left the links below to the videos of not only these technologies that will hopefully be released, but some other really cool videos that you should check out as well. All right, let's do this. The first biggest surprise, Sony unveiling a concept electric vehicle named the Vision S. Looks great, doesn't it? But also, does it remind you of the Tesla Model 3 or maybe those lines and curves from a Porsche? Comment below. Unfortunately, Sony has only suggested that this is what an EV could be and well, shut it off as to what the company can do technically speaking, such as like 360 audio sound, in-dash displays that stretch the entirety of the front. And well, to me, I really do wish that actually Sony would get into the EV business because well, this thing looks awesome and would I buy it? Maybe? Who knows? In a cringe-worthy unveiling, Henrik Fisker proudly unveiled the Fisker Ocean EV. A small SUV that looks like a Toyota HR-V or maybe a Land Rover Disco. Yeah, maybe? A lot of buyers will like it, especially the opening glass to the rear. It's got a solar roof which will supposedly add about 1,000 miles of range per year. And in a move which I think more and more car makers will start to do is parts of the car, like the interior, are sourced from recycled plastics collected either from the oceans or normal recycling measures. Henrik mentioned that some of the products they used in this are like recycled carpet, abandoned fishing nets and more. Coming out in America in late 2021, well realistically 2022 they said, then worldwide release after that. But in the really clunky unveiling, they didn't actually mention Australia, they just said worldwide, and then he quickly suggested around, Asia and Europe and America, kind of forgetting this big continent down south. So I did reach out to them, but I haven't heard back at this stage of filming as to whether or not it's going to be coming to Australia, but supposedly it is. Priced at about $37,500 starting, it's going to basically be, when it hits Australia, who knows when, about $75,000. And well, it's a very compelling, good looking car. An issue more and more people will face in the future is difficulty accessing water. A US company has created the Hydraloop, designed for home installations or small businesses. And well, basically, it takes wastewater from sinks, baths, and showers, and it can recycle up to 85% of it, which will reduce water consumption by about 45%. Costing about $4,000 American or roughly $5,700 Australian, the system doesn't require any filter changes, maintenance, nothing. Literally, you install it and forget it. And well, this is great and something which I hope to see in Australia because, well, we've been in drought for quite a while, and in Victoria we had a significant one in the early thousands, and we built a desalination plant, which no doubt will come in handy later on. But nonetheless, with having something like this in your home, do you think it will be helpful for you? Let me know. Put it down below. Alright, just one more from CES 2020, and I give to you the Segway S-Pod, which looks something like it's from WALL-E. Seriously, I mean, come on people! With growing obesity levels worldwide, do we really need this dual-wheel, self-balancing chair? Okay, staying with bikes, but getting away from the CES stuff, researchers at Monash University have made a breakthrough with a new version of lithium sulphur batteries. What's unique about these batteries are that they can store considerably more energy than lithium-ion counterparts. In theory, as much as 6 times the energy of a given weight, and that because they are made from sulphur, that is relatively common and cheap. So what they've done is they allow these battery packs to actually, when they're getting charged, to swirl in size to almost double what they originally were. Research is still underway, but the commercial reality of this is at least 2 to 4 years away. I'm conflicted. Why? Well, ARENA has announced an $18 million grant for building Australia's second largest energy from waste plant in Rockingham, Western Australia. Located 40 kilometres south of Perth, the plant will process approximately 300,000 tonnes of waste per year and deliver 28 megawatts of baseload electricity to 36,000 homes. Whilst this technology is not new, in fact, the company responsible for installing it has actually done more than 600 projects worldwide, and they say it meets the most stringent environmental requirements. And here's where I'm uneasy about this. Creating energy from waste creates its own issue, such as, well, wastewater that's generated during the whole process, and particulate matter that they say is supposedly okay for the environment, but doesn't doing this, like burning, create just another problem realistically, and well, not fix the primary one? Well, let me know your thoughts. The city of Brimbank has just installed 82 kilowatts of solar power on top of a multi-storey deck car park located between George and Dawson Streets in Sunshine. Now, whilst this amount of solar isn't like in any way massive, no. The reason for my reporting on it is that the council is working towards reaching a 100% renewable energy by 2021, and that this is just part of that equation. To date, the council has installed solar on more than 34 council buildings and has generated more than 1 megawatt of power, saving them approximately $270,000 in electricity costs to date. And this is a key message that we all need to be getting out there, alright? This is what renewable energy looks like. It's not one massive coal plant that provides like energy to a whole state. Rather, it's a collection of tiny little electricity generators. I applaud the council for doing this, as well as, well, many others who are doing the same. Seeing as water is a big item on today's show, and seriously, I didn't mean that, but it just kind of worked out that way, I introduce to you the Australian company Hydropoint, who has just released their version of a hydro panel, which takes water vapor from the air. Yeah, water from like the thin air. How? Well, this system, which kind of looks like a very small solar array, basically collects water from the atmosphere by generating some heat by using the solar panels. The system passes it through a series of fans and wheels and then filters into a storage tank. Now, these panels are by no means new. In fact, well, let's face it, condensation has been around since the beginning of time. But What I like about this is that these have been developed and manufactured in Australia. In the past, you had to actually import one like the American company, Zero Mass Systems. Also, the impact of this, well, can't be overstated enough. Imagine having your own water supply that's basically generated from thin air. They've done it. A Tesla Model 3 that can go 1,000 kilometers on one charge. Not really. Some fool, and I kid you not, has basically converted a Tesla Model 3 to a hybrid. Yes, a hybrid. An Austrian engineering firm called Obrist, apologies if I mispronounced that, I probably did, probably butchered it, claims that they can make the Model 3 cheaper with twice the range but at half the cost by putting an internal combustion engine in it and reducing the battery size. What they've done is they've put a 7.3 kilowatt hour battery pack with the older 18650 cells to reduce the car's weight. And they've also plonked a 2-cylinder petrol engine into the front boot, fruit, TM, which in theory, well not in theory, they've actually built this in, can actually do 1,000 kilometers on one charge from an undisclosed amount of fuel that they've used. So, question, why do this? They say that instead of putting a new big expensive battery from a Tesla, you can actually install the $2,200 battery system, $1,300 engine, which totals about $3,500 or so American and change, and well, that's about $5,000 Australian. So that is supposedly 55% cheaper than the cost of a 50 kilowatt hour battery pack from Tesla. Guys, do you not get it? We've got to keep the fossil fuel stuff in the ground, and this doesn't help. Okay, as battery tech gets better, ranges will improve, no doubt. Do not go backwards this way, please. Just stop. Okay, time for one of my favorite segments, mail time. And well, today I'm going to kick off with, well, from last Monday's show where I talked about energy and very, very briefly touched on nuclear power. And well, Taz Amphol, he said that, talking about nuclear, Chris, we'll be lucky if it's buried in the ground like in Finland. Most will be submerged into water pools and, well, still become our problem. Not to mention, they take, well, 10 years to build, so no solution for climate change just now. Just a distraction, and they are the most expensive source of electricity. And you're absolutely right, Taz. Look, with all the issues of nuclear, if people just would understand that realistically these things don't start up overnight, they take a long time to build, and when they do get going, they're about 4 times the cost of typical electricity sources, including coal and gas. So why would you want to have a much larger electricity bill? It's beyond me. On last week's news episode, I brought you some footage of navigating on autopilot, and there's quite a few comments about that. And Michael Finks said that, well, his navigating on autopilot is set to, well, he set it to medium and not Mad Max, and well, it doesn't make those pointless lane changes that was frequently seen on my video. It seems to move into the left lane to exit quite late though. The off lamp is wide, and then it becomes 2 lanes where Elon would choose a lane to stay on that side. It sticks to the middle and veers quite quickly into one of those lanes. Full self-driving is clearly a work in progress, but I think it's the future of driving. Yeah, all right, good to know. Thanks for that, Michael. And yeah, there's an interesting video, but I think who did it? I think Rob did it from City V. Apologies, I've got that wrong. And he and his wife talk about that maybe the programming logic wasn't right, that the lanes 1, 2, 3, 4 incorrect for Australia. I would hope the programming logic by Tesla, the software guys is a lot better than that, but who knows? Again, it's a beta. Berlin Game 87 asks, would you know how many Teslas have been sold in Australia? Well, good question. Tesla Australia stays very mum about anything and everything, and I did actually email them over a week ago when the quarterly figures came out from Tesla America. People are thinking or guessing there's a few thousand in Australia. I'm not sure, but if I do hear from them, I will let you know. One last little comment, and this I love. Scooby Doug wrote, Tesla's navigating on autopilot One small step for autonomous driving, one giant leap for mankind. Good job. On the outskirts of Townsville, they've just installed a grid-sized Tesla-powered battery system of 4 megawatts that will soak up more than 21,000 residential rooftop systems for the people who live, obviously, in Townsville. This will enable them to actually feed back into the system at night time after all that solar energy has been produced back to the homes for about 2 hours. And well, the battery system later on will actually form part of a 135 megawatt virtual power plant owned and managed by Eureka. Well, not actually owned by Eureka, apologies. Eureka's installing it. It's actually the Queensland government's public company who owns the system. Good on you guys. Anyhow, the 135 megawatts of excess solar is provided by, 10 suppliers around Queensland, and the battery will take the pressure off substations, stabilise the grid, and other power assets. I think that the locals of Townsville will hopefully see reductions in the power bills soon. Now, I want to conclude today's show with a little bit of a shout out for all the wrong reasons. And this one goes to the Australian Financial Review, who, on the backbone of the recent bushfire emergencies that, thankfully are almost under control, thanks to some more favourable weather conditions this last week, but also the amazing efforts of our firefighters, army, and firefighting specialists from around the world who have come in to help us out. If you want to help, I've left the links down below once again, and yeah, if you can, do, and if you already have, thank you very much. We all really appreciate it. The Australian Financial Review made some rather questionable claims showing just how misinformed they are about how energy production has been transformed just within the last decade. In fact, you know what? Probably in the last 5 years. To quote them, rather than ramp up the climate wars over God-alone cuts to Australia's carbon emissions, they would make little difference to overall global temperatures. The focus should be on practical measures to mitigate climate risk. Now, hold on. Our carbon emissions make little difference to the overall global temperatures? Seriously? Let's talk about that for a second, okay? You see, our emissions, CO2 emissions, are 1.3% of the global total. Tiny, right? Especially when compared to big polluters like China, 29%, America, 16%, and India at 7%. But, and it's a big but.
He touched the butt.
What are their populations and what are our emissions when you actually look at it on a per capita basis? Australia has a population of 24 million. The US, 327 million. China and India, about 1.3 billion people. So sadly, we are the second most CO2 producing nation on Earth. Only to be, slightly behind, not that's a good thing, Saudi Arabia, with America coming in third. Yeah, third. So, Australian Financial Review, to say that we need to do nothing about our impact of 1.3% on the world's CO2 emissions is, callous and so wrong. Some of your readers will believe you, and they think that they too don't have to do anything about reducing their impact on the environment. We're all in this together, and a rich nation like Australia, we can do more in this space, honestly. But moving on. Another issue I had with the editorial, they state that Australia has led the world in wind and solar generation thanks to renewable subsidies and targets. But the renewables boom has also led to the closure of coal-fired power plants that could ramp up supply when the temperatures soared or the wind isn't blowing, as can happen on hot days or when the sun doesn't shine during hot nights. No? It's just so wrong, it's laughable, and it's just bad, just very bad. Renewables haven't closed a single coal-fired power plant. They've been closed because, they've retired. The age of them and the high maintenance costs meant that the companies running them were like, we can't keep this sustainably open because it's costing us way too much. Yeah, okay, so take that away. Additionally, even AEMO, that's the Australian Energy Market Operator, the guys who actually run our power network in Australia, they acknowledge that climate change is having an impact on electricity security, leading to increased instances of blackouts or load shedding, to be more precise with technical terms, due to extreme temperatures during high maximum demand, bushfire threat to electricity through transmission, drought threat to hydro, and to coal plant cooling. And P.S. That statement I just read to you was published in August 2019, a month before our current bushfires started. Yeah, mind blown, right? Anyway, let's take a look at the rate of blackouts with coal. And well, tell me again, Australian Financial Review, how these coal power plants, which are increasingly becoming more unreliable, how do they keep the lights on? They're not. It's actually renewables that are coming to the rescue. All right, to be fair, the Financial Review did note that a lack of stable policy framework has deterred investment, but then they go on to say that this has prevented replacement of peaking generation, such as fast start gas plants, from coming online. Again, what? Since when during a blackout is 20 minutes a fast ramp up time? That's how long a gas peaker plant takes to ramp up. 20 minutes. 20. Alright, compare that to a grid-sized Tesla power pack, like, well, I've got one in my house really, but the same thing is also on the grid. They start up in milliseconds, seamlessly matching the grid requirements, matching frequency, and keeping it stable and the lights on. And then, what else did you say? That, quite frankly, has got me questioning your motives, because so far it seems as though you are favouring CO2 emitting mining and fossil fuel interests. So what do you say? The uncoordinated influx of cheap renewables scattered across rural regions has also occurred without updating transmission networks, which means that some wind and solar assets are unable to get all the generation to the grid and to customers. Yep, that latter part of the statement is very true. There are solar and wind farms that can't connect to the grid because, unlike what you said in the first part of this statement, they're actually caught up in government bureaucracy and red tape, meaning that they can't even build transmission lines to get their electricity out to the larger part of the grid. What else you got? They call for building more interconnectors and coordinating the modernization of transmission networks to avoid stranding renewable assets. Yes, thank you. And I can't agree more. But wait, what's this? It should also mean the introduction of a revenue-neutral carbon tax to drive investment in non-coal-fired peaking generation and other emissions-abating industries, such as hydrogen energy, carbon capture and storage, and nuclear generation. And that this is a measured energy policy that rethinks as part of a practical recovery from the fires would be the rational, least cost-effective way to tackle climate change, reduce climate risk, and keep the lights on. To which I say, you've got some great points in there, like getting renewable assets online, increasing the number of interconnectors across the country, but to suggest that hydrogen energy is cheaper than solar and wind, well, is wrong. It's very messy. It replicates the failings of other current petroleum industries, like transporting of fuel. You know, you got to basically put it in a truck, transport it to somewhere, store it there. It's very leaky, by the way, and it's not very good at reacting to demand. No. All right. The other thing, you were kind of on the money, by suggesting that shoring up the grid and making it more bulletproof is the way forward. Yes, it is. But you see, we are pretty good at getting the energy already to homes and cars via power lines. Yeah. And well, please don't get me started on carbon capture and, well, nuclear power. That will have to be for another day. So, Australian Financial Review, the solutions are already here and being built already. I can't say that enough. Just like in my prior story about Townsville, yeah, South Australia with its virtual power plant, Western Australia with its virtual power plant, we're seeing more and more of these virtual power plants coming online. And what happens is that should the lights go out, these little suburbs will keep on running even if an interconnector is broken, even if a major high voltage power line is going down. It doesn't matter because these things operate independent of that, and that is the future.